Hello everyone, this is Venus Brown, and today I am going to be reacting to The Crown, Season 2, Episode 5, called Marionettes. Now, I think most people understand marionettes are, I believe, a type of puppet. I think the ones on strings, so let's see what that is. Is that a direct title about an actual marionette, or is that more of an analogy or simile or something that something's like a marionette? We'll see. Anyway, I am working on trimming up my House of the Dragon, my final video for the last 4 episodes. That's taking me a little longer than I anticipated, but I should have it trimmed up soon and I can get that out to you. I'm also playing the game The Evil Within 2. I have that on there. It'll be just part 1 and part 2 of the game, which I'm going to put on there probably in a day or two. And I'm continuing to work on my First Blast from the Past segment, which will be covering The Handmaid's Tale Season 1. If you don't like that kind of stuff, that's totally okay. Just scroll on by, move on. If you only like The Crown, that's fine too. I will be continuing to record these reactions to The Crown until I am all the way through the entire series. Without further ado, let's get on with the show.
Critic is at it again. Here attacks the Queen.
Did he say peer attacks the Queen? Because a peer could be just about anybody. I mean, anybody that would be considered the Queen's peer.
No, I shan't have anything. Sorry.
Yeah. Breakfast is my favorite meal. I like to drink coffee first and then like an hour later get just a little something for breakfast. Or a little more than something.
That's it. Don't push. Lord Walsingham. Yes. You traitor!
Will Smith isn't the only one that walks up to somebody and decks them in the face.
Time and tide, Mr. Conservator.
Wait for no man, private secretary.
Good afternoon.
I wanted to get a backdrop of that building that they were just in, but I couldn't remember how to do the print screen without the print screen button on my keyboard.
Has been struck.
And I laughed about that, about him getting hit, but really the fact that he could just go up and do that to him also means that just about anybody could go up like that and shoot him, which would be a lot worse, and I certainly wouldn't be laughing.
Is now on his way to the Bow Street police station, where we expect
Rightfully
him
so.
to be released.
Well, how very gratifying.
Why do you hate us so very much?
I mean, honestly, you can have disagreements with people and not hate them at all, but it would be nice if he answered. Here's the introduction.
If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications.
And there it is, The Crown.
Priests is the only viable solution for saving the Church of England, and irrelevant hour by hour. He's got 1,000 words.
The doctrine. And if this is still in the 50s, I imagine that would be very controversial.
Toffee,
Why didn't I know that?
you can't know everything about me.
But I would like
Not
to
the
try.
taste I object to so much. Painful memories. As
Yep,
a child,
and the painful
I
memories
was sitting in
can...
a dentist's chair because of... Oh, Lord.
Is it happening again?
Soundness of heart of its average men and women.
Working men and women?
No, I think average is fine.
Makes them sound average. You can use other words. If it's a problem with, like, the whole speech, because I wasn't listening enough to really know what was going on in the whole speech, then okay. But If it was just a problem with that one word, wouldn't it just be so easy to say the word could be looked down upon by many people? And you're basically using that word to paint that whole group. They know who you're talking about when you say those words. They know that you don't mean anything positive by it. Even if you're like, oh, well, I'm old fashioned. This is just the way it is. Still comes from like not a great place. People don't like being identified as just being blah, ordinary, average.
Lonely lives, where dreariness is the enemy. Perhaps you don't understand that on your steadfastness and ability to withstand the fatigue of dull, repetitive work, the prosperity of the community as a whole, of its average men and women. May you be proud to remember how much depends on you.
Oh boy.
And that even when your life seems most monotonous.
Oh yeah, that was definitely, I mean, I have been yelled at for saying that certain types of work were thankless. Like, really, they said could definitely be looked on very negatively.
You're going home?
I don't need to be.
I don't need to be.
No, I'll find someone else.
No, it's no trouble.
He obviously is interested in you, whether it be romantically or looking up to him. Oh, no. You don't want to go that far. I get upset about people speaking really negatively about Biden not being able to speak very well, stumbling on his words, stuff like that. Like, seriously, the guy used to have a stutter, and that stuff doesn't completely go away. It causes issues. And we have people sitting here calling him geriatric and stuff like that, which is fucking ageist in the first place. Don't think that there are not other very old people operating in positions of authority, like the president. Calling people geriatric is just fucking rude. Like, I'm sorry. You can call me woke all you want. That is rude. It's not fucking necessary. Anyway, yes, I know that Biden has some issues, but complaining about his ability to speak, which he has had challenges with speaking for a while. We know that early on, even the first time he ran for president, people complained about the fact that he made many gaffes with his speech. At that time, I didn't know about his past having a stutter. But even so, like, not everybody can speak well. And writing a statement about the Queen not being able to string sentences together is so derogatory. Like, really, they should definitely be watching that. That's a little too steep. They need to be careful. All those people that probably would have been very much on his side with that initial nature of what he was saying, you could easily get a lot of them going against what he's saying after making a comment like that. Like, you got to be careful. You got to try to balance what you're saying. You can't just be saying whatever the heck you want, whatever comes to mind. You need to temper that a little bit, because the people are going to come to conclusions, and they are all going to amass into various factions as to how they feel about that, and especially if it is divisive. You can disagree with people without being disagreeable. All right, y'all, I got my kid up, took a little coaxing, and I got some coffee going so I can get some coffee. It's about 8:30 in the morning, a little after that, because 8:30 is when that alarm goes off. And that means that before I take my kid to college, I get to have a little bit of fresh coffee, which I'm glad, because yesterday I had no fresh coffee. It was like all cold, old, had to be microwaved coffee the whole day. That usually doesn't happen in my house. Usually, if there's leftover coffee from the night before, It gets drank by about the middle of the day, and then by the time I have my second cup, I'm able to make a fresh pot. But yesterday, for some reason, it seemed like I was the only one drinking coffee, and there was over a half a pot left in the morning from the night before. And by the end of the day, there was still like a little less than half a pot. It was very upsetting to me because I love to have at least one fresh cup of coffee during the day. Please. That's all I ask. I don't object to drinking an old cup of coffee in the morning or the afternoon, but just give me one fresh cup, please. I mean, even if I'm camping, I will use the percolator and make some coffee. It might not be the bestest, but it will be fresh. Okay, let's move on. And there's my backdrop. I do like some of the castles. I think they're very pretty.
Shot, man.
You could have let her aim herself. I'm sure she could figure it out. It's got a freaking scope.
Well, thank you.
It's so funny. They get all hell-bent about these little things that really, if they just fucking let the shit go and dealt with the repercussions at the time, probably would have panned out to be okay, and they make a big stink out of it, keep everybody from doing what they really want to do in their heart, make it worse. And this, something they could have easily just squelched right off the bat, that wouldn't have been that big a deal.
Just to say,
They like, oh no, nothing wrong with that, let it go, it's okay. And then what happens, it blows up in their face. Like, come on. Pick your battles, but know the correct battles to pick.
Any part of you that agrees with him?
I wouldn't ask your
It's
mom.
not just your mother saying that. She'd never been born.
As I said, balance. Don't have to be divisive and nasty about it.
The fact that it's day is what makes it valuable.
You don't think I'm walking into a trap?
You walked into the trap when you wrote the article.
Mm-hmm.
He dismembers them, tears them to shreds.
Yep.
Yes, but keep your cool under his scrutiny. Make your case politely, respectfully, intelligently. It could turn people around.
It can be hard, though, to stay cool and polite and collected when you're speaking to somebody like that who's just trying to dig and dig and dig and dig until you're just like fuming underneath.
Thank you for coming.
If you're really good at it, you can kind of keep your cool and look like you're the polite one and you're the one that's making sense, while they look like they're an irate idiot. This is the production that they were seeing at the beginning. Okay.
So very much.
I don't.
Then why criticize her like this?
You don't
That's
have
like
to hate a
asking an
person to
art critic
criticize
why
them.
He criticizes art. I'm a passionate monarchist who believes constitutional monarchy is Britain's greatest invention.
Do you indeed?
Yes, I do. I believe that monarchy provides clarity. A symbolic head of state transcending the self-serving interests of the egocentric and self-motivated politicians and unify a society. It can set the tone and become the embodiment of the nation, of national character. But the problem is, at the moment, it's not doing that. A pain in the neck. She sounds strangled. I had the misfortune of hearing one of them. No, I quite agree. Her Majesty has a seemingly impossible task. She has to be ordinary and extraordinary, touched by divinity and yet one of us. But being ordinary doesn't have to mean bland or ineffectual. Yes, because only the boss can get rid of the bad servants. She hires them. She alone can
Yeah.
find some of them.
I think some of the bad servants make her feel like they have to be kept around
It's not theirs.
and that she doesn't have to be listened to.
Court as well to remember that until recently, monarchies were the rule and republics the exception. But today,
He makes a valid point. A good dust-up might do her some good, and then she might be able to frickin' speak her mind a little more. Do the things that she actually wants to do a little more. Not the queen who is by all these other people telling her what to do and how to be and how to talk and how to act. There it is. Yeah, laughed again. That could have easily been something a lot worse than a slap. Slap is assault, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. I mean, just touching somebody without their permission when they don't want it is assault. And people act like that's just woke progressive talk, but it's the reality. Doing things that somebody doesn't want against their will, without their consent,
Some reactions in the newspapers.
friggin' wrong. And touching somebody against their will, without their autonomy, they don't want it, that's considered assault.
Now, this whole mess springs from a badly written speech which I gave unquestioningly because I trusted you. Perhaps
Fair.
was right. Perhaps I should surround myself with younger, more dynamic people with one foot in the real world.
You should have done that a while ago. But you may not have known any better. And they don't necessarily need to be young and dynamic. They just need to understand that the queen needs to be the queen and doesn't need to be stifled all the freaking time about every little thing.
I'd put out.
So how do you put it out? I shouldn't say how do you put it out. I should say how do you put it out? Because what they do is going to determine how things are going to go. You can put it out in one way that could be very, very negative. It would still be put out. You could put it out in another way that could actually result in a lot of positive consequences.
Oh. Right. And to take a list of suggestions, recommendations. Your tooth, John!
Your tooth. That would be amazing. And terrifying at the same time.
Chris will be with you shortly.
I see we have something in common.
And what would that be?
No!
Of the guards at both St. James's Palace and Windsor Castle. Doesn't quite fit the profile of a revolutionary.
It's the assumption everyone has made.
It has, on occasion, been suggested to me that my protesting certain things when it comes to the American government, the American military, the industrial complex, all of that, that I'm not a good patriotic American and all of that. Maybe they just have a different understanding of what it means to love your country and to be a good patriotic citizen of that country. To me, I do love my country. I want my country to succeed. I want my country to do well. I want my country to treat its citizens well. That doesn't mean that I want my country to let people be lazy and do nothing and get everything for free. That idea is very much peddled by a lot of not just conservative politicians, but a lot of politicians, period, that it seems to be peddled by. It's that when people need a hand, I want them to have the ability to get a hand if they need it. You know what I mean? Me wanting America to improve the way it does things, me wanting America to look at what they're doing and improve what they're doing, especially when they're doing something that some of us view as wrong, that doesn't mean I don't love my country. Learn better and do better. That's what I want.
You can understand me.
Yes.
Not you strangled. too much pain in the neck?
No,
Good. I've got a list.
I do.
Gotta come
As
prepared.
you might know from my to start and 3 things to stop.
Well, let's start with the stops.
Presented to the sovereign, and women who are not of that class are not presented to the sovereign and somehow not acceptable. It's unkind, discriminatory, quite possibly unlawful.
Next.
Televise the Christmas speech. Become more transparent, accessible.
Which can be good,
Oh, finally.
but it can definitely also have its drawbacks.
Private secretary to come in.
Of course.
Well, that was quick.
Please. When I
Where'd
went
she go?
back into the room, she was gone. Claimed that I did. The palace would robustly deny it. They will, however, concede that I had an appointment with Her Majesty's Assistant Private Secretary.
BBC. It's funny because I kind of depend on BBC for factual information myself. Some of the news organizations here are at best questionable.
Happy Christmas. 25 years ago, my grandfather broadcast the first of these Christmas messages on Christmas Day. My own family often gather round to watch the television.
I find it interesting that she was so nervous because it's not like she hasn't had to memorize speeches, and she's been in front of cameras plenty of times where she had to speak in front of cameras. I think because it was so staged, maybe that was part of the reason for her nervousness. But I mean, I get nervous myself being in front of people, and if you look at my reactions and discussions, I do a lot of trimming stuff out because there are pauses, gaffes, missteps. Like I think of myself as a pretty educated person, but I don't always speak very well. So being in front of the camera is a little bit nerve-wracking sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't bother me, but sometimes it does. So I guess.
It's rather better in bed, I suspect.
Oh dear God.
Look at them.
Cheers. It could be Mr. David Smith, a car dealer.
Ah, so she is letting more of the
I believe
sort of
that
average
is
people in.
Hank Clark and a woman policeman.
And I'm all for allowing people like that into things like this. But I do think you definitely need to vet everybody that you're allowing in very well, just like you would with a political campaign. Vet the person that you're letting in. Make sure that they are safe.
Nothing at all.
No.
Marionettes.
Okay, so puppet, yeah. And I've definitely heard people say
Gloves
stuff
on.
like that. That the crown is just puppets. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't have a lot of understanding of how that works because we have a president and cabinet and all this other stuff in America, and we don't have royal crown. But sometimes I feel like looking in from the outside, like there's some balance there that doesn't seem to exist here. All right, y'all. So that was episode 5, season 2, Marionettes of the Crown. Marionettes was kind of a metaphor that to some people, the crown, the royalty, the queen and king, and all of that stuff at this point are like puppets on a string, not really carrying out any jobs. And I don't see it that way. But like I said, I'm somebody on the outside looking in that doesn't have a full understanding of what it's even like to be in a monarchy. And I do think that the British monarchy at this point, at least there is both the monarchy and this other portion of the government that kind of balances things out a little bit. And I don't know why, but sometimes I really do feel like that seems a little more balanced than what we're experiencing here in America. We're supposed to have this balanced system of the law, Congress, the Senate, and the administration. Somehow it seems like we get one party that seems to make most of the decisions and things just veer that direction. And even though there's supposed to be these balances to balance that out, they don't always work. And that's how it feels right now. Like those balances are not working. And it goes both ways, whether it is liberal, conservative, or some other fringe direction. It just seems like you do get these points where multiple branches of our government are veering one direction and steering away from another direction and becoming unbalanced. And it is discomforting and disquieting at the very least. We'll see you in the next episode, probably in about a week. I try to do these every week. My other content is kind of random when I get to it. It takes me a little longer to edit some of those things. It takes me a little longer to plan some of them out. So I do them when I have the time. And so they take a little longer. But these Crown episodes I can usually do every week, without too much problem. Sometimes I run into issues where I get dinged and they want me to cut stuff out, or they are just blocking it and I have to contest their blocks. But for the most part, every week. So I will see you in the next episode in about a week. And if you want to see the other stuff, I should have a couple things coming out in the next couple days. And then my Blast from the Past episode, my first Blast from the Past segment, I'm not sure how long that's going to take because there's a lot more planning and a lot more stuff that I have to put together for that. We will see.
Until next time, I'll see you when I see you. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications.